Hi, welcome to the Gemara on Chavtzet Amud Bet. We're starting about 8 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Itmar, Rosh Chodesh Tevet shechal liot b'chol. When Rosh Chodesh Tevet falls out on a weekday, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, the Masorah Shas actually adds in Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha again. Karu tzlata b'Rosh Chodesh v'chad b'Chanukah. You should read 3 aliyot from the Rosh Chodesh reading and one for the Chanukah reading. V'Rav Dimi Dimin Chayfa Amar Karu tzlata b'Chanukah v'chad b'Rosh Chodesh. So he has the opposite opinion: 3 aliyot of the Chanukah reading and 1 aliyah from the Rosh Chodesh reading. Amar Rabbi Mani Kivatei Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Mistabra. Did Tadir v'Sheino Tadir Kodem. So Rabbi Mani says it makes sense to hold like Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, that you do 3 of Rosh Chodesh and 1 of Chanukah, because Tadir v'Sheino Tadir Kodem. We always do the most frequent thing first, or we prioritize the thing that we do most frequently, and Rosh Chodesh comes more frequently than Chanukah. Am Rabbi Avin Kavatei Rav Dimi Mistavra. But Rabbi Avin says no, Rav Dimi's position makes the most sense. Migaram l'Ravi Shiavo. Literally, who caused the 4th aliyah to come? Right? Why do we have a 4th aliyah to begin with? Rosh Chodesh, because of Rosh Chodesh. Right? If it were just Chanukah, we wouldn't have 4 aliyot, but because of Rosh Chodesh, we do. Hilkach Ravi'i Rosh Chodesh, and therefore it makes sense to have the 4th aliyah be the one related to Rosh Chodesh. Hilkach Ravi'i Rosh Chodesh by Mikre. We're required to read the 4th aliyah for Rosh Chodesh. My Havi'ala, what happened with this? Meaning, what was the psak for this? What happened in later generations? Rav Yosef Amar, Ein mashkichin b'Rosh Chodesh. Rav Yosef said, we don't pay attention to Rosh Chodesh. Rashi explains, Ein mashkichin la'asot ikar. Right? We don't make it the ikar. We don't pay too much attention to Rosh Chodesh, so we give more readings to Chanukah. V'Rabba Amar, Ein mashkichin b'Chanukah. And Rabba says, no, the thing that we don't pay so much attention to is actually Chanukah. That's the one we should emphasize less. V'Hilchata Ein mashkichin b'Chanukah, v'Rosh Chodesh ikar. And the halacha actually is that we don't pay so much attention to Chanukah, and in fact, Rosh Chodesh is primary. Rosh Chodesh is the ikar. That's the reading that we prioritize. Moving on to the next subject, although we're still within the topic of Torah reading. And just to be clear, when we say that one reading is primary, it means it comes first and there's more of it. So if Rosh Chodesh is the Ikar, it means that Rosh Chodesh is the one that we do more aliyot of. We do just the 1 aliyah for Chanukah. Okay, moving on. Itmar, Chaliyot b'va'atat tetzaveh. If it fell out on the week where the parsha is va'atat tetzaveh, going back to Parshat Shkalim. So if Parshat Shkalim falls out on the week of va'atat tetzaveh, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Karushita me'atat tetzaveh ad kitisa, v'chad mikitisa ad ve'asita. So you read 6 aliyot from the beginning of ve'atat tetzaveh, meaning that's the Parshat Shavuos. You read 6 aliyot until kitisa, v'chad mikitisa ad ve'asita, and you read the first aliyah v'chitisa until the words ve'asita. Remember here that they're thinking of maftir as aliyah number 7, not aliyah number 8 or 7 plus 1. So this is how Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha would have you do it. You read V'atat Tetzaveh, and then you read in 6 aliyot, and then aliyah number 7, which is the maftir, the special maftir, is from Kitisa, which is Shkalim. Amar Abaye, Amri ukumehu dekamuk mehatam. This is Abaye is objecting to this opinion. He says, if you do it that way, they will say he's something like he's stopping there because because the stopping place is here, or is there, right? Hatam is there. He's standing there because the stopping place is there. In other words, people won't realize, and Rashi really makes this clear, people won't realize that there was a special maftir reading. V'atat tetzaveh goes right into kitisa, and especially in a situation where people don't necessarily have books, so they're not going to realize that this special maftir started. They're just going to think you just kept going, and that's where Parshat Tetzaveh actually ended. that they won't know that Kitisa actually started and you kept reading into it because it was Shkalim. Rashi explained this, Klamar ein hadzavar nikar l'shem parshat Shkalim. It won't be noticeable that you read this next piece for the purpose of Parshat Shkalim. They'll think this is just where Parshat Tetzaveh ends, and that's why you stop there. So Abaye gives a different solution. Ela Amar Abaye, Karu Shita Me'ata Tetzaveh. You should read 6 aliyot from Ve'ata Tetzaveh ad Ve'asita until Ve'asita. V'chad Tani V'kari Mechi Tisa ad Ve'asita. So you actually do read the first 6 aliyot go into the first aliyah, or cover additionally the first aliyah of Kitisa. And then for aliyah number 7, you go back and read that first aliyah of Kitisa. And the idea is that it makes it noticeable, right? In this way, people will really notice because they see that a section is being repeated, and they weren't used to doing that, right? Since they didn't have maftir readings the way we do, they weren't used to repeating a section. They'll be like, what's going on? And they'll pay attention. Meitzveh. Now we have a contradiction. As from a source that we've seen before, a Tannaitic source that we saw before. If it falls out, meaning if Parshat Shkalim falls out on the parsha that is right next to it, either before or after, meaning Kitisa, you have the week of Kitisa, and then you have Parshat Shkalim, or you have Parshat Shkalim, and then you have Parshat Kitisa the next week. You read it and you repeat it. Bishamala Abaye, so this makes sense according to the opinion of Abaye. Nicha, it's all good, because Abaye does have this repetition piece in his scenario. The Gemara here assumes, for the moment, the Breitz, it means you repeat it on that actual Shabbat. So that's exactly what Abaye is saying. You have Ve'ata Tetzaveh is 1 week, and the next week is going to be Kitisa. But Tetzaveh is also the week of Shkalim, so it's going to be Shkalim and then Kitisa. So you wind up reading Kitisa, or at least part of it, twice on that Shabbat. So this Breitzer works according to Abaye. El Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Kasha. But for Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, it's a problem because Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha's solution doesn't have any repeating, right? You just start with Ve'ata Tetzaveh and read into the beginning of Kitisa, and that counts as your Parshat Shkalim, and so there's no actual repetition going on, so that's a problem. It doesn't fit well with the Breitah. Amar Lacha Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha would say the following: Ula Abaye minicha. Wait, you think this works for Abaye? Tinach lefaneha. Okay, falling out before works, right? If as is described in the scenario, if it's Tetzaveh and then Shkalim, if Parshat Tetzaveh is Shkalim, and then the next week is going to be Kitisa, so then you have a repetition. But literally afterwards, how can you find it, right? There's no case where Shkalim could come out after Kitisa, and you would have repeating. That you wouldn't have that happen according to Abaye's scenario, because then you would just go on to Vayakel. Ella mai itachal neimar. Rather, what is it that you have to say? Kofla b'shabbatot. Hachanami kofla b'shabbatot. You have to say that, as we initially interpreted the Breitah is referring to repeating from 1 week to the next. So you read Kitisa this week because it was Parshat Shkalim, and you're reading it next week because it's Parshat Kitisa. And that must be what it means. Okay. What if Parshat Shkalim falls out on Kitisa itself? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Karo Sheta min Ve'asita ad Vayakel. So you read 6 aliyot from Ve'asita until Vayakel. In other words, you read all of Parshat Kitisa except the first aliyah, which has the part about the Shkalim. V'chad karim mi Kitisa ve'ad Ve'asita. And then you go back, and for aliyah number 7, you have someone read the first aliyah. Matkifla Abaye attacked him. Hashta amri l'mafreya hujakari. Now people are going to say you're reading out of order, right? It's not going to be clear that you're doing it for a good reason. It's going to be like, well, why are you reading the parsha out of order? Ella Amar Abaye, rather Abaye says, Karushita ad Vayakel. You read 6 aliyot until Vayakel, meaning until the next week's parsha. So you do the whole parsha of Kitisa in 6 aliyot. V'chad tani v'kari mechitisa v'ad v'asita. And then someone goes back and reads again the first aliyah of Kitisa. Tanya Kavate de Abaye, and we have a Tannaitic statement that supports Abaye, a Breitah that supports Abaye. If it falls out on Kitisa, in fact, you read it and repeat it. So that is the Psak Halacha. Although again, none of these halachot really work for our system, because our system assumes 7 aliyot plus a maftir, and their system assumes 6 aliyot and then the maftir, which is number 7. Okay, we'll stop there.